Good evening, Rabbi. Ooh,
Hello, Martha.
is that the eagle that I see in the corner of the picture there?
That is.
Oh my word, it is.
Yeah,
Oh
that,
wow, it's beautiful.
yeah, that's Joe's picture there that he posts. Of course, both of us sailed as well as your brother sailed on Eagle quite a few times.
Yes, he did. He did that transatlantic trip when they had the sailing vessels
The
going
Opsail,
across over to Europe. Uh
and
huh.
he's he was very fortunate then. I tried to get on that, but I was already on another ship. I was at sea. I think I was like
Oh heck.
XO or something on another ship, and so I couldn't convince anybody that there should be a spot for me on the Eagle. I said, I don't care, man. I'd sleep in a hammock
Oh
and climb the sails just to do that.
yeah. I
And
remember one
don't,
picture he sent back. It was when he was at the top of that mast and he had some sort of a microphone or something in his hand. I guess he was communicating to people down below, but he was way at the top. And I said, "Where's your safety line?" They didn't have a safety line on him. He
No, we
was
didn't have no.
straddling that mast up there.
No,
And
back in those days, we nobody there was no such thing as a belt or a top. It was one hand for you and one hand for the ship. So, and that's the
oh
way
my
we did it,
goodness,
you know.
wow. But the view was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was.
The view was spectacular.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I climbed to the top of the mast many times.
Wow. Mm, gorgeous. All right.
All right, so we're getting down here to some of these things here, and let's see what else I got to do. All right, so I'm in, so I can do this. That. Should I get rid of that? That. Hey, Leonard, are you listening there? Can you hear me?
say yes. Yep, we hear you.
Okay. The power company came out today, and they did a whole bunch of checking on this and that and the other. And one guy says, "Well, I tell you what, I'm not that smart. I've called much smarter guy, and and so another guy showed up. It was a good bit younger, and they fiddled around and they said, "Well, what it is, it's that automatic transfer switch was only half half of the leg was switching over." And so I'm going to have to call GenPro tomorrow and get them to come
Uh,
out and fix that because yeah, they isolated it all and they said no, it's all good coming from the transformer. It's your automatic transfer switch. So we couldn't get it to work, and so we switched everything back over to the generator, and I'm operating on generator now.
yeah.
Well, I
That was
appreciate
one.
you guys coming
That
out
was
anyway.
one. Yeah,
Huh?
that was one thing I did not check on was the leads coming off of the transfer switch. I should have checked that.
Yeah, well, they did, and so they also said that they're sometime this summer or in the next few months, the line coming into my house, the top line, the power line, it's going to be a 14,000 volt line.
Whoa.
Yeah, right now
they call it 14,000, but the actual voltage will be 13.8 kVA. And yeah, you're going to probably need a new transformer too.
Yep, yeah. Well, he said that they're that one up there that I've got is already it's
Suited.
already rigged for it. So all they have to do is just turn a switch up there. Once he said, we got some things to do. It's real easy, but you got to follow the protocol and switch the thing over. And he says it's pretty easy, but that's what we'll be doing. So I don't know what advantage that is, but
Well, you'd probably wind up getting, instead of 240, 480 single phase, and you don't want 480.
no, I don't need any. I don't need 480.
Yeah, you only need 240. So there you go.
Yeah, well, it was kind of like when I was younger and going through my what do you call that? Your midlife crisis. I told Pat I was going to trade her in for 220s, and she said, "You better not, buddy. You're not wired for 220." So, yeah, that's one of those deals where I decided it was cheaper to keep her, and so all I did was, instead of getting a new sports car, I got me a John Deere tractor. It worked out much better that way.
Keep you out of trouble.
There you
go. Yeah. Yeah, I told that to that new guy and gal that showed up at synagogue, twice. Yesterday was their second time. That big tall guy, and he says, "Yeah, I got a John Deere," and I says, "Oh, so you farm or anything?" He says he's a rancher, and so he's got a real John Deere. I got a baby John Deere. So, anyway. All right, I think I've got everything ready to go here. I've got the recording going, and we're on YouTube, and so I think we're good to go tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this back up. So let's begin with the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe. Sanctifies us with his commandments and commands us to engross ourselves in the words of Torah. All right, so I'm going to
excuse me, Rabbi.
Yes.
One note. I did not hear this is being recorded. I could have missed it, but I just wanted to tell you that.
Okay, well, let me check on that, because I clicked the button, and we'll see what happened. There you go. Okay.
Now I heard it.
Yep. Well, I was scooting through all of those things, and so anyway, that's good, because there have been times where something happened, and I had to go back to the recording to get it to record back onto either Facebook or YouTube. So, all right, before we get going, Chanel, you had your hand up. Did you have a comment or question?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So I want to welcome everybody in tonight. We got 18 people signed in, and of course, with couples and stuff like that, then we're much more than 18 people. So maybe a couple of dozen. So that's really good. Okay, so we've done the blessing, and I want to just jump right in here, because I think I have about 5,700 words in my notes, and generally speaking, when I have that many, for my sermons, 1,500 words is about 30 minutes. So 7,000 words or 6,000 words, whatever it is. Okay, we're going to be here about 3 hours. So, all right. So on this, we're going to chapter 20, and it is it's kind of an interesting chapter. Yeah, Carl, you had your mic open.
It shouldn't be.
Oh, okay. All right. Good, good. All right. So any of you that are new, we only have like one rule here, and that is I mute everybody, and I don't know if I've done that yet or not. Mute everybody, and then that way it cuts down on the crosstalk and stuff. But if you want to say something, just unmute yourself and say away, you know, or raise your hand or whatever you want to do to get my attention. I've got all of the participants right here in almost in line here with what I'm reading, and so fact is there's another one jumping in right there. Okay, so yeah, if you just will unmute yourself, then we can talk away, and it makes life a whole lot easier for me when people do have comments and questions. So anyway, let's go ahead with this. I've broken chapter 20 into actually about four sections here, and I'll read it because some of you are on telephones, and so you can't get you can't read it. So chapter or verses 1 through 6 is talks about the conflict with Pashur, the chief admin officer at the temple, and then verses 7 to 10. I'd call it the fire of the call, the prophet's inner struggle that he's having, and then 11 through 13, his faith kind of breaks through there through all of his problems and his lament, and then 14 through 18. He gets really down and honest with the Lord, and he does some venting, and so that's okay, and that God doesn't have a problem with that sometimes. Okay, so okay, Rudy, I saw your mic was open for a second. Did you have a comment or something?
No, it's the baby pushed it.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so let's go with the first couple of verses here. And it says, when Pashur, son of Immer the Kohen, who was chief officer in the house of Adonai, heard Jeremiah prophesying these things, Pashur had Jeremiah the prophet beaten and put in stocks at the upper Benjamin gate by the house of Adonai. All right, so there's a lot to unwrap in just those two verses. Now, this guy Pashur was they call him the chief officer of the house of Hashem, or the chief officer in the temple, and we really can't nail down exactly what that title was, other than most of the commentators feel like that he was like the chief administrative officer and head of security, and he handled just the day-to-day things that go on in the temple, where he was not the chief priest. Okay, so he was like right up there at the right hand of the chief priest, and so he was basically the head of security at the temple. And so here we see a confrontation. In chapter 19, we saw where Jeremiah went out and he shattered the clay jar, remember, out there in the valley of Ben Hinnom, and he had brought out the leaders. He had called out the leaders of the priests and also the leaders of the civil government of Jerusalem out to witness this, and what he was saying was that as I am breaking this clay jar, God is going to break Jerusalem, and he's going to destroy Jerusalem. So they didn't really like that message, and so this was it made him mad. And this guy Pashur, and they don't really know his name. What did it mean? Some people said it meant splitter, and another meant sharer. Well, that's a big difference in the two, and I don't know what his name meant, but anyway, he was in the image, or in the lineage of the priesthood. He was some kind of a priest there. He was definitely a Levite of some sort, and his role, it says the chief officer in the Hebrew, it's the Pakid Nakid, and it is you'd say the chief appointed officer. So he was, his role was not in so much in the priestly things and doing the liturgy and the spiritual stuff. His was more of the admin and discipline. So he represented the institutional religious power that they had aligned themselves with the political power, and they just refused to hear God's warnings as to what that was going to mean, what it was going to come to pass. Now, and so this was a classic example I wrote down here, the classic example of if you don't like the message, then just shoot the messenger. And so Jeremiah was seized and he was beaten. Now, what do they mean by beaten? Okay, well, that's where they basically take off your outer cloak and you got a bare back and you're flogged, and with like a cat o' nine tails kind of a thing. And they can whip you with that thing. The Torah says 40 less 1, so 39. You can get whipped with this thing 39 times. And I don't know, I've heard it both ways, where that was 39 total, where you've only got so many of these strings or whatever on the cat o' nine tails there. But 39 doesn't really, if you'd only to do that, you'd have to have something that's divisible by 3. You'd have something if you had 13 strands in this thing, and so that hit him 3 times with that. That's 39. Or some people say, well, no, they could have used it, actually hit him 39 times with the thing. So I don't know. Either way, it was painful, and it was something that you didn't want to go through. And I know when they did it to Yeshua, he was torn up very badly. And so that's what they're talking about here with Jeremiah, that he was beaten. Well, it was not just a slap or, a poke in the nose or something like that. No, this was a public flogging. And its whole intent was to shame a person and silence them. And, Paul, the apostle, had, he went through that several times. I think James and John, or they were, or Peter and John, I forget the 2 disciples. They were beaten, and they were flogged that same way. And so this was carried out by the temple guards and the temple police force, whatever you want to call it. So Jeremiah here was treated like a criminal, not like a prophet. And so this is actually the first recorded physical persecution that Jeremiah suffered, but it certainly won't be the last. And so then they put him in stocks. All right, now they said it was at the gate, the Benjamin gate. So I found, okay, here is the temple, and then up here the sheep gate or Benjamin gate. That was the gate that from there the road led up to the area that belonged to the tribe of Benjamin, and but it was also where they could bring in the sheep for the ritual sacrifices. But that's where that was. You see the temple here, and so that's where that was. Now the word they put him in stocks, and that the word, and I apologize for this being so grainy here, but I couldn't really find what I was looking. This is the closest I could find that where the kind that they put Jeremiah in, where they had his feet entrapped there, and then his hands entrapped. Well, not only that, but then they bent him over and put his head in there. So he's in a very awkward position, and it was at a place like that that are holding him in a place like that they could have actually been hitting him with that with the cat o' nine tails, or the whatever kind of whip it was. And so the gate there, the sheep gate or Benjamin gate, it was a kind of a major entrance into Jerusalem and into the temple area. So a lot of people went through there, and so he wanted to make sure that Jeremiah was humiliated in front of all the nation. He wanted him to stop this incessant teaching or preaching about the coming judgment on Jerusalem, and how that they're going to be defeated by Babylon, and they didn't want to hear it. It's just something that they didn't believe, because they said, we're Jerusalem, we're God's chosen people. It can't happen to us. And so in his Jeremiah he suffered because he was speaking God's truth. And sometimes that just happens, that when you're speaking the truth, then you're gonna suffer. And so here he is. It's the clash, the classic clash between the true and then the false authority, or the true he's the true prophet against the false religiosity. Okay, Joseph, you had a comment.
Yes, Rabbi, they also said to them, not only will you be conquered by this other power, but don't put up a fight. Because if you put up a fight, you're going to die.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And some of them tried to put up a fight. And one of the kings did that. Their last king did that. In fact, he ran away. And so they captured him and all of his sons. And then they slaughtered all of his sons in front of him, and then put his eyes out. So the last thing he ever saw were the bodies of his sons slaughtered in front of him. And then they carried him off to Babylon, where he died. But yeah, it was it was a coming judgment, and the people didn't want to hear it. So. But this suffering actually was part of Jeremiah's ministry. And so then let's see, I think we in this next verse here. Yeah. So let's look at these next verses here, because there's some interesting things in the Hebrew. It said the following morning, Pashur released Jeremiah from the stocks. Then Jeremiah said to him, Adonai no longer calls your name Pashur, but Magor Misaviv. Okay, so I practiced that all afternoon, and I still messed it up. Magor Misaviv. And so, for thus says Adonai, behold, I will make you a terror both to yourself and to everyone you love. They will fall by the sword of their enemies, while your eyes look on. So I will give all Judah into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he will carry them captive to Babylon and will slay them with the sword. All right, so this he wasn't held in the stocks very long. Just looks like it was like overnight, and we don't know the reason for that. Why they would release him only after a day or maybe even less than a day? But whoops. But anyway, he was released, and so very first thing that Jeremiah, he didn't back down. He didn't decide, well, maybe I can just be quiet and they'll leave me alone. No, he gets right in the guy's face and said, okay, God has just said your name has changed. He's no longer going to call you Pashur, but Magor Misaviv. And what that means is the Magor is dread and fear and panic. It's something like that you would see in horror films, where the guy there with Freddy Krueger with the long whatever. However you look at horror and dread, or Chucky, the doll, or I can't remember the guy in the Bates Hotel with Psycho, the movie with Alfred Hitchcock movie, but that sort of fear and just something that scares you to death. And then Misaviv is a word that means everything all around. It's just all around you and it's circling. It's everywhere. And so what that put them together, and you've got his name is terror on every side. So in this renaming, it's not symbolic only, but it's actually a prophetic indictment, and it's a preview of Judah's eventual collapse. And so again, those words of Magor Misaviv, and so it's just terror everywhere. And so it said he will witness the fall of Jerusalem. His inner circle, his friends his pals, his cohorts, the ones that are around him, his soldiers or his police force or whatever you want to call that, all of those guys, all of his family, everybody around him will be killed, it says, and he's gonna witness them being killed. And whereas he was a terror to Jeremiah, now because of this, he's also gonna be inadvertently a terror to the people that are around him. So he becomes the embodiment of the coming Babylonian siege, actually. And so there's I have a whole bunch of Hebrew words here that we could go through, but we really don't have time to get into all of that. But anyway, it was just I think the important things that to note there is the Magor, which is terror, and Misaviv, which is surrounding or all encompassing. And so everything around you is a terror, as if you could remember that. So Pashur would not only be terrified because of all this stuff, but he's gonna cause terror around among everybody that is around him, his fellow priests, temple officials, political leaders, his family, and everything. And and so it says, "And your eyes will see." It's Veyaneka Tirana, and that means Veyaneka Tirana is means your eyes will see, and it comes from the root word of re, which is to see. And so he's going to personally witness the downfall that he helped to create by being against God's word. And so this is quite a reversal. The priest that publicly humiliated Jeremiah, he's going to publicly witness the humiliation of his own people. And so so Jeremiah's words here, they anticipate the siege of Jerusalem, the collapse of Judah's leadership, the failure of the temple-based security theology. You know, their idea was that we're God's chosen people. We have the temple here. We're doing these sacrifices so nobody can touch us. We're good. And you know, they'd been sieged. They'd been besieged before. And you know, they when Sennacherib besieged Jerusalem, God came in and 185,000 soldiers died in one night. And then they had so they were just looking at that and says, yeah, it happened before and it'll happen again. So this guy Pashur, he was just a microcosm of Judah's spiritual decay. And so anyway, that's I think that's closes out those verses. So we see that, you know, where Jeremiah was beaten, and then, you know, right, take him out of the stocks and stand him up, and he's right back in Pashur's face and says, okay, God's changing your name to terror everywhere. And so yeah, I get the you know, the thought that comes into my mind is that basketball player that we see all the time where she's pointing her finger at what's her last name, Cunningham or something like that. And so that's kind of the picture I see of Jeremiah here. Fearless. All right, verses 5 and 6. Moreover, I will give away all the wealth of this city and all its produce and precious things, even all the treasures of the kings of Judah, and I will give over to the hand of their enemies, who will plunder them, take them away, and bring them to Babylon. As for you, Pashur, and all who live in your house, you will go into captivity, and you will go to Babylon. So there you will die, and there you will be buried, you and all your friends to whom you have prophesied falsely. And so you know, Jeremiah declared that Pashur's false security, you know, where he tells everybody nothing's going to happen, it's all going to be good, not to worry, don't listen to this guy, because we're God's chosen people, nothing is going to happen to us. And so that's a false prophecy. So what Jeremiah is saying here, God has said, look, everything that you trusted in, your wealth, your power, your temple privilege, your national identity, it's all going to be handed over to the enemy. And the you know, you'll lose everything, and you're going to personally go into exile. So you're going to be like, you know, the top dog there in the temple, and then all of a sudden you're going to be just the lowest of the low. You're a captive, and you're hauled away. And typically, a lot of times when these captives, especially the Assyrians, I don't know so much about the Babylonians, but I know the Assyrians, when they would haul people away as captives, they would you know, put a fish hook in their mouth and strip them naked, and they hauled them off in chains, naked, and that was part of the part of the humiliation, and just the idea of keeping people from rising up against their soldiers, because they had nothing, they had no protection at all. And so so Jeremiah here is saying that everything, your total other your total wealth, everything, all of your wealth that you have is going to be taken away. And in the Hebrew, where it's talking about the strength of the city, or the what is it called? The wealth of the city. It's the Kol Hazen Hayir. It's everything, all of their treasury, anything that was of any value at all was going to be taken away. And so all of their things that they had saved up in their little nest egg and so forth, everything was going to be taken away. And so that just nothing would be available for the people. They would be totally impoverished. And the Babylonians are not going to only take away just the necessities, they're going to strip Judah of all of their glory items, their symbols of status and pride and everything, just a total destruction. And not only the people, but also the royalty also. Alan, your mic is open.
Not anymore.
Okay.
Where'd it go?
You had something to say there, Michael? Or Alan?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, it's still showing open, but all right. If you don't have anything to say, then I'll go on.
Good.
All right.
Why is it doing that?
I don't know. You want me to mute you?
That might work.
There you go. All right. Okay. So, and so they're the Hebrew here, we're going to take them away from the enemy, is going to take them, and it says Be'ad Oveyahim and Oyevahim. So Be'ad Oyevahim, it's into the hand, it's total control. It's a Hebrew idiom for just going to take everything, and you have no recourse. You're totally under the control of the Babylonians. And it talks about they're going to plunder and strip bare, and that's the Hebrew word there, bazaz. And then they're going to lead them away, holik. And so they're not going to leave Jerusalem or Judah with anything that would, even one little simple thread of dignity. And so then he also says that Pashur and all who in his house, they were going to be under judgment. They're going to be carried off into captivity. Also, they were not even going to be given the dignity of death. They were going to be carried off as slaves, telek hasabi, which is a captive, exile, deportation. And so it goes, his then at the end he says you're going to die in Babylon. It's the word there is Sam Tamut. It means that in that place, you're gonna die. And so his death in Babylon is the ultimate humiliation. There's no burial in Judah, no family tomb, and nothing, no lasting legacy at all, no honor. And so he's going to be just a worthless person and just a worthless corpse when he gets to to Babylon, and nobody will remember him except for, if they read the book of Jeremiah. So he's that old saying of, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Well, this is a classic example of that. And so what does all of this mean? Well, the guy that punished Jeremiah is also punished by the very word that he tried to suppress. He didn't like the message, tried to kill the messenger, and so the message is going to come back and double down on him. So false religion can't protect, the temple privilege of being a priestly, being a priest. None of that stuff is going to shield a person from the consequences of their sins. And so this exile, it's not just relocation. It is, what would you say, theological displacement. This is covenant displacement. This is what God said would happen. And so Pashur's household suffers because spiritual leaders shape the destiny of those who trust them. And if you're in a position of leadership and you are corrupt and you lead your people astray, then just shame on you. It's going to come back on you big time. All right. So verses, any comments or questions before we go on?
Rabbi, just
Yes,
just a friendly reminder. The heading 1 is Pashur's name spelling is P-A, yours P-E. Just a friendly reminder.
Well, yeah, okay. It's a lot of times when you have those kinds of differences, it just depends on who you get it from, where you get your transliteration from. I'm just trying to what did I have? I have Pashur, and then I wrote it Peshur a couple of places. All right. Maybe so, yeah. Because I've got it in my notes as Pashur, and you're saying it's Peshur. Let me see. What does the scripture say? No, the scripture says.
Yes, you're right, Rabbi. Just a previous slide before Jeremiah 27:8, the previous one. Yeah, there you go. The next one.
But in there, okay, Pashur, okay, there.
Yes, this slide, the big name.
Oh, up at the top. Okay, yeah. I see that
Yes.
now.
Pardon me.
Okay, all right. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. So I'll tell you, by the time I was putting all of this stuff in a slide form today, I was running really, really behind schedule. I like to have this stuff done much earlier, but we lost power last night. And and my emergency generator didn't come on. Well, when you don't have power, we don't have air conditioning, we don't have water because of water well, and I don't have my CPAP, and which is fine. I'll go sleep in my easy chair and be just fine. But my lovely wife is concerned about my health, so she wants me to make sure I'm on my CPAP. And so I'm out there, after midnight this morning, trying to work on my generator, trying to get it started and trying to get power back into the house. Well, we got all of that taken care of and got up the next morning, and we kind of sort of still had power. The generator, turn the generator off, but it wasn't working right. And of course, I called my friendly electrician, and he came out and we looked at it. We worked on it a little bit. And we finally got it to where, okay, I had full power with my emergency generator. And then the power company came out and said, well, this is wrong. This is messed up, and so you're going to have to call your friendly generator people and have them come out and replace a switch and so forth. Well, that didn't finish off until about 2 o'clock this afternoon, and so I was really scrambling. So it's not a big surprise that I misspelled something. That's
I'm really appreciate Rabbi.
it does, stuff happens sometimes. All right, let's look at verses 7 and 8. I think I think that's where we were. Yeah, 7 and 8. Now if I can find it back in my notes, where am I? All right. Here we go. Adonai, you enticed me, so I was enticed. You overpowered me, and I prevailed. I'm a laughing stock all day long. Everyone mocks me. For whenever I speak, I cry out, I proclaim violence and ruin. For the word of Adonai is scorn and ridicule to me all day long. Okay, so what's happening here? Well, poor old Jeremiah has just come to his wits' end here, and he's to the point where he's he's just had it. He's just flat had it, and so he's just crying out to the Lord, so this is Jeremiah being a man and just calling out to God. And so, remember, he's coming off of this experience of being whipped. And so he's all bruised and bloody and he's a mess. Not only that, then they put him in these stocks where, he's got his feet sticking out one way and his hands up there. And then they push him down, far down and put his head into a position. He's there all night long. And what a humiliation for a guy that's supposed to be God's prophet. And so, yeah, he just unloads. He's unloading on God, and this is it's pretty raw. And so he erupts into this lament that okay, so it blends kind of accusation, anguish, and he's wrestling with the theology of all of this stuff too. So anyway, here he is. He's and it's interesting because some of the translations that are there, I don't even know how many translations of the Hebrew that I went through on this. And one of them, it says, the translation was, well, Adonai, you enticed me. And other ones said, no, you persuaded me. And another one translation said, you deceived me. So there's a big difference between enticing someone and deceiving someone. It's you can entice me with an ice cream cone, but then if you are enticing me with what I think is an ice cream cone and it's nothing more than a big glob of I don't know, coconut oil or coconut, whatever they call that stuff, where it solidifies, or a big old blob of lard or margarine or something like that. And that's, that's what you're saying is ice cream. Well, that's deception, but enticing is, hey, you want some ice cream? Yeah, buddy, I'm ready for ice cream. And so it was just interesting how that the translations and how you would read it. And so I like the idea that you enticed me or you persuaded me rather than you deceived me, because I don't think God deceived Jeremiah at all. And he says, you overpowered me and you prevailed. God's calling on Jeremiah was so strong that Jeremiah couldn't resist it, of course, because it was just too strong a calling. And so perhaps what we could say here that Jeremiah is getting to the point now he got beat up for preaching the word, and so maybe he just didn't quite have he hadn't realized how much his ministry was going to cost him, and then he's disheartened because he looks around and his ministry is not effective like he wanted it to. People are not listening to him. In fact, they're just rejecting him and always ready to shoot the messenger, as it were. And so he's just not happy. And he cries out, the word of God is okay. No, and what words did here? Let's go back to the words he used: the violence and ruin. Well, the violence and ruin there, I don't know if you picked that up, but it's the word for violence is a word that we all know, and it's called Hamas. Where have we heard Hamas? Of course, that's the terrorist organization in Gaza. It means violence, and Vasod is destruction. And so here he is out there proclaiming Ahish Hamas, Vasod, and so all of those together, and everybody's saying, no, you're wrong. We're God's people. Can't happen to us. And, then they beat up the messenger because they don't like to keep hearing it. And his preaching was just, he was relentless, and he was negative about what was happening and that the people's sin was causing this, and they were going to pay the price. But they just wouldn't have it, and so he was beaten for his troubles. And so Jeremiah said, every time I open my mouth, the message is judgment, and because of that, I'm mocked and shamed constantly and continually. And so the word of God, which is meant to be a word of life, had become for Jeremiah just a source of suffering. So what can we pull from that? Well, divine if you compare the divine calling and the human cost, Jeremiah's lament tells us that prophetic ministry was not voluntary. It is not voluntary. It's compelled by God. He said, I knew you before you were even formed, and I knew what I wanted you to do. So, and now Jeremiah is experiencing this inner conflict between obedience and suffering. You take a good beating like that, get stuck in the stocks all night long, and you get to thinking like, is this worth all of it? Unfortunately, I've seen spiritual leaders, pastors and rabbis, and so where they get to the point where they said, it's just not worth the hassle. I quit. And then they go off and do something else. And I've known several guys that do that. And I think they regret it because, when you have a call on your life, when God has a call on your life, it's hard to, if you walk away from it, then you're walking away from what God really wants you to do. I don't believe you can be totally happy if you're not doing what God is wanting you to do. And so, but in verse 9, we'll get to that in a minute, but it talks about how that the word of God is just a word that God has for him. It's just irresistible. He has to do it. And so his complaint is not about belief. it's just, he's overwhelmed, you know, and life has just dealt him a blow here that he wasn't quite ready for, I don't guess. Now, later on, happened again, but different things. But here he is, you know, he is just, Jeremiah is being a man. And in some ways, his complaint here is it's kind of like the language of seduction and overpowering that's used in what you call ancient Near Eastern love poetry. Now get this. This says that, okay, Jeremiah's relationship with God is deeply personal, just like, you know, if you love someone. His pain is relational. It's not particularly or not merely vocational. It's, you know, oh yeah, he got beat up, got put in stocks. That's not the hard part. The hard part is he felt like that God had rejected him or had just done the Bette Midler thing, that he's just watching from a distance, you know, and not really there. And so his lament here, it's more like the cry of a lover that's wounded. He's wounded by the cost of loyalty. So, and that's why, you know, Jeremiah was called the weeping prophet, and not particularly because he was weak, but because he loved God so fiercely that his heart was constantly broken. Kind of like when Yeshua goes into, sees over, you know, Jerusalem. He's coming into Jerusalem, looking down from Jerusalem, and he weeps because he can see what's going to happen with Jerusalem and how they are going to suffer after he's gone. And so he weeps for that, same as Jeremiah does. All right. Goodness sake, time. Verse 9 and 10. But if I say I won't mention him or speak any more in his name, then it's like fire burning in my heart, shut up in my bones. I weary myself holding it in, but I cannot, for I heard the whispering of many, terror on every side, Denounce him. Let's denounce him. Even my close friends are watching for my fall. Perhaps we have been deceived, so we'll get the better of him and we'll get our revenge on him. So here he is. He's continuing on. There was. We're continuing on with his lament, but at this point, you know, it kind of catches Jeremiah at a breaking point. I mean, he's just so torn with the cost of speaking out in God's word, and then, you know, being beaten and trying to silence him, and at the same time he says, but if I'm quiet, if I don't say this, if I don't do it, it's just like fire that's burning inside me, and it's got to get out. I need to give vent to what God is telling me. So he just is overwhelmed, sure, with his pain and his humiliation, but at the same time he says, but I still have to do what God wants me to do. It's a divine calling. That's the nature of it, is when things go bad, you still have to go out there and do it. I know it's kind of trite, but back in the day, those of us in the Coast Guard, we had a saying that, you know, in rescues and so forth, you have to go out to go do the rescues, but you don't have to come back. Meaning that even if it costs you your life, you got to go out and do the rescue, at least attempt the rescue. And so, anyway, let me go on because we're running so short of time here. But Adonai is with me like a dreadful warrior. Therefore, my persecutors will stumble and will not prevail. Since they are not insightful and not wise, they will be utterly shamed and everlasting disgrace, never to be forgotten. Yet Adonai Svaot, testing the righteous, seeing the mind and the heart, let me see your vengeance on them. For to you have I presented my case. Sing to Adonai, praise Adonai, for he has delivered the soul of the needy one from the hand of evildoers. All right, so here Jeremiah he shifts. There's a big shift here from that the dirge of a lament, and now he's saying, "But God," and that's where a lot of times we look at things and we think it's all bad, but then you remember, the God that made the heavens and earth is the one it's living in me. I can do all things through the Messiah that lives in me. And so we have those kinds of things. We can be confident. And he looks around and he says, my enemies, they're just a bunch of dummies. That's what he says. They're not wise, and they're just a bunch of dummies. They're going to fail. All of their, everything that they're talking about, it's going to fail. And so Jeremiah says, "So Lord, come down, take care of these guys, take your vengeance out on them." And there again, he's being a man, and he's wanting to see a little retribution there. But then the last verse there, he breaks out into a song of praise to God, because he knows that God is going to deliver him eventually from his detractors, from his persecutors. All right, verses 14 and 15. "Cursed be the day I was born, the day of my mother bore me. May it never be blessed. Cursed be the one who brought the news to my father, saying, a baby boy is born to you, making him so glad." Well, here Jeremiah gets back on his lament here, and he says, he's just cursing the day that he was born. And so all of these things, he's taking the blessing of a birth. That's what we look at. Births, those are happy times. The birth of the baby. Those of you that have children or had children, you remember, when you first see the little guy, and it's, oh, isn't he cute? And for me, they all look like Winston Churchill without a cigar. But I mean, babies, newborn babies, that people say, "Oh, how beautiful," and they are. I'm just making a joke, but it's a happy time. It's something that you just really, people are overjoyed with. And so Jeremiah is saying, "Not so much for me. I just rue the day I was born." And so, and even the messenger that came to my father and says, "Hey, you got a baby boy," said, "Heck with him. I don't want to have anything to do with that." And so he just he's going against all of that. And so he's, again, just being a man, and he's venting. I think he's venting to the Lord right now that things are just not going his way. And so, he's not suicidal. He's just overwhelmed. And so, we read through the scriptures all over the place where, David cried out to the Lord. Moses did, and many of the others, giants of the faith. They just cried out to the. They would get so frustrated and with everything that was going on. And so, Job, David, Elijah, Moses, all of those guys, they could cry out to the Lord. And so, Job, there you go. And I think it's okay sometimes, in honesty and in you just in sincerity. Sometimes you just don't understand why things are going wrong and why things are this way or why that. And those of you that have gone through sicknesses or the death of a child, or really severe health issues, you sometimes just cry out to the Lord, why is this happening? And I think it's okay. Well, I know it's okay because the Lord says, bring your burdens to me. I'll take them on. And so it's okay to question sometimes what God is bringing, because we don't know the answer, but it's okay. He is our Father, and just if you got a good earthly father, just think how much better is the heavenly Father. All right, so let's get these last two verses in here. Now let that one be like the cities with which Adonai overturned with no relenting. Let him hear a cry in the morning and a shout of alarm at noon. Since he did not kill me in the womb, so my mother might have been my grave, her womb filled forever. Why did I ever come forth out of the womb to see trouble and sorrow, and my days end in shame? Oh boy. I mean, he is really, really laying it on here. And I left those notes out. I told you I was hurrying. But here, the core idea here, he's come to the end of his rope. And this is not a theological rebellion. It's an emotional collapse. He's collapsed. He's a faithful prophet, but right now he is just crushed with persecution and loneliness and the burden of divine calling. And so I look at that and say, well, if this could happen to Jeremiah, who God called from the very beginning, before he was even born, before he was even conceived, God knew him and knew who he was, what he was, and that sort of thing. So if that could happen to a guy like Jeremiah, he had such a calling on his life, well, then you know what? We shouldn't be too surprised, I guess, when the same kind of thing could happen to each and every one of us. Sometimes we are just overwhelmed. And that's when we can go to the Lord and say, look, I am overwhelmed. I've had it. I'm up to here. And I just don't even know what to say or what to do. I've just had it. And so it's a lesson for us, I think, that we can take this and apply it to our own lives. That bad stuff happens even to good people. And Jeremiah here, he's not attacking his mother or anything like that. He's just so sick right now. He is sick of living. He doesn't want to get beat up again and put in the stocks again. He doesn't want to, well, guess what? Some more stuff is coming, but he doesn't know about it yet. But at the same time, he is just venting his soul to the Lord. And you know what? God never did. He doesn't rebuke him. He doesn't kill him. No, because he's got things that he wants Jeremiah to do. And same with us. Sometimes stuff happens to us, and just hang in there, because the Lord has something for each and every one of us to do. Our lives, he's mapped out a good life for us. If we'll just follow his words and follow his commandments, we'll be doing well. So that ends up our lesson for tonight. And are there any comments or questions so that we can let me see, go on. All right. All right. So all of those. Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Oh, what happened to Martha? Martha bailed out. What happened, Martha? You were in and then you were out. Okay. So any comments or questions before we shut her down? I can go ahead. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and stop the YouTube so that we can do our questions and stuff now without. We'll have to do this first. Hang on. Stop share. Okay.